Good morning. It's Monday, April 15th, and you're watching LPAC TV. Today begins a week of great opportunity and great change. From various quarters around the world, we find ourselves on the verge of historic events which will shape the destiny of not only generations living today, but those not yet born. A week that history will look back on as having great consequence, for better or for worse. And which way history goes depends largely on the decisions that we make over the next coming days, whether or not we can seize a moment of great opportunity and act. The three great theaters of action as they present themselves today are 1. Europe, 2. Russia, and 3. Here in the United States. In Europe, the French elections will occur this Sunday, April 22nd. Practically by the hour, the influence of French presidential candidate Jacques Cheminade continues to surge. And despite desperate efforts that have been made by a clique among the leading media figures allied with both Sarkozy and Obama to marginalize him as a minority candidate, he is gaining rapidly the influence and the authority of being a truly leading presidential figure, becoming ever more associated with the traditions of both Jean Jaurès and Charles de Gaulle, both representative of the greatest republican traditions of a free and sovereign France. Coming off of 2 lengthy primetime appearances on major French television networks, France 2 and TF1, Cheminade traveled to the north of France to the city of Lille, where a large crowd gathered spontaneously to meet and talk with the candidate. Following that, he was interviewed on primetime national radio, and then spoke in front of a meeting of the Congress of the Movement of French Africans in Paris to a crowd of several thousand attendees. Cheminade was the only candidate to show up and received a very warm welcome and deep appreciation for his remarks, especially on his plan to replenish Lake Chad. Cheminade's campaign has broken out beyond the borders of France as well, with the Argentinian state news agency, Telam, publishing a major story on Cheminade titled "An Argentinian Born in Buenos Aires and French Presidential Candidate," which quotes Cheminade extensively. Perhaps most significantly, however, is the statement that Cheminade has issued exposing the Eurex plan to market new financial instruments speculating against French state bonds, a scheme which is slated to begin today. This scandal, and Cheminade's response to it, has the potential to catapult him into an even more prominent position in this campaign. Although other candidates are attempting to tag this scheme as an election ploy by Sarkozy, Cheminade was the first not only to identify this scandal as far back as April 8th, but in his statement released this weekend, attacked it as an operation coming from the very top, out of the City of London and Wall Street, to make France, and more generally all nation-states, crawl. He responds to the attack saying, "In front of the expected turbulence and the war the financial markets are declaring on France, our country, thanks to her history and the nature of her institutions, is neither helpless nor unarmed," detailing how a Glass-Steagall separation of deposit from investment banks would be not only defense against such acts of financial warfare, but also the necessary first step to a renaissance of the economy of France and the world. This is also the feature of Cheminade's official campaign platform, a copy of which has now been mailed out to every household in France. In the platform, Cheminade begins by declaring that France must initiate a new resistance, this time against the world of finance, and a new renaissance, this time against a moneyed elite which is a direct emanation of the financial globalization which degrades human beings. He then goes on to enumerate 6 steps to achieve that objective. 1. Banks must be cut in 2 in order to break open the financial lock, just as was done at the liberation of France after the Second World War. 2. declare the investment banks bankrupt that bet and lost. 3. Create a national bank to invest in public infrastructure, schools, hospitals, laboratories, and small and medium-sized entrepreneurial companies. 4. Build a Europe of the fatherlands to fight financial feudalism. 5. Give ourselves the means to populate the world with the aid of nuclear physics. And 6. Take up the challenge of the development of Africa and space exploration. Elsewhere in Europe, the situation is equally explosive. In Italy, while Giulio Tremonti and Lega Nord have joined together with the LaRouche movement in their fight for Glass-Steagall, the Parliament is scheduled to begin debate on the European Stability Mechanism this week. An online petition is now circulating, calling for public debate on the ESM and stating, "The threat is great that sovereignty will be transferred to a financial organization with the ensuing wave of austerity policies to hit the citizen." In Ireland, the fight for a no vote on the austerity referendum is on, with a major mood shift in process, as indicated by the 7,000-person protest which erupted over the weekend outside of the annual convention of the Labour Party, a coalition partner in the government currently, with protesters breaking through the police barricades twice and carrying signs accusing the party leaders of being fascists in disguise and calling for a revolution. In Greece, new elections have now been scheduled for May 6th, as the nation accelerates towards the point of complete ungovernability. And in Spain, it has now been revealed that the Bank of Spain, to cover its unpayable assets, was forced to borrow 316 billion euros from the European Central Bank in the month of March, twice the amount that they borrowed in February. Fears that Spain will be the next Greece crashed stock markets across Europe. With this combination of factors in practically every country across Europe, it is undeniable that the entire transatlantic system could unravel any hour of any day. The second potential theater of great change in these coming days is Russia. As we approach the official inauguration of President-elect Putin, the ideas of LaRouche are gaining a parallel resurgence. From Vladimir Yakunin's recent reference to the necessity of the Bering Strait Tunnel, to a series of exclusive interviews conducted with Mr. LaRouche, including one prominently featured on terraamerica.ru on the subject of the joint Russian-American colonization of space and strategic defense of the planet. More breaking developments are expected out of Moscow in the days ahead, and we can be sure that these will reverberate globally just as significantly as the dramatic events unfolding in Europe. The third great theater of action in the world this week is right here in the United States. The campaign for the impeachment of Obama continues to heat up, with both the publication of the Sean Stone Alex Jones Impeach Obama 2012 video last Thursday and a prominent statement called "The Final Stage of Obama's Dictatorship" from the LaRouche National Slate last Friday, which is available on this website. At the same time, the mobilization around NWAPA is taking off nationally, with penetration into layers from prominent industry to labor to federal candidates for Congress to the Congress itself, with significant interest for the project and all of its implications coming across the board. You can help to continue this mobilization by printing out the press release available on this site and circulating it to your networks, in addition to sending the newest video, the NWAPA 21 animated overview, to everyone you know. Expect much more on the NWAPA program to appear over the coming days on this site, including coverage of the regional candidates meeting this past weekend in the Pacific Northwest, featuring 3 LaRouche Democratic candidates, Dave Christie, Diane Sayer, and Rachel Brown, in addition to NWAPA project director Michael Kirsch and contributing author, engineer Hal Cooper. As is becoming ever more clear, we are currently in the kind of situation in which seeming minorities, such as the LaRouche federal candidate slate here, or candidates such as Jacques Cheminade in Europe, can multiply their influence and catalyze events that break all seemingly prevailing trends. As Lyndon LaRouche stated this weekend, this week will be a decisive one in the course of world history, and the substance of the decision to be made is whether mankind will submit to the prevailing trends of mass opinion and behavior or oppose them. Only a substantial shift in the prevailing temperament of public behavior, catalyzed by the leadership of a small minority of leading figures, will save humanity as we know it today.